but I swear it's because I'm a good employee. If he's upset about it, I'm going to blame you guys. So, I appreciate you all being here. I know we're kind of at the point in the retreat where we're halfway through a long weekend. You just had lunch. Maybe you sat through a talk before this that was, maybe some of you are here because you really want to be here. Maybe others are here because it was the closest room from your last talk. You didn't want to have to go down the stairs again. Either way, I'm glad you're here. God's glad you're here, and he has a specific message he wants to tell you. So, today is Valentine's Day. Yesterday, who knows what yesterday was?
Friday the 13th.
Yeah, Friday the 13th. Do people still celebrate that as a scary day?
Yeah.
No? Okay. Listen, I don't want to sound like a boomer here, but when I was growing up, Friday the 13th was like, oh no, what are we going to do? There's like a whole series of horror movies about Friday the 13th. But people don't seem to care it these days. But today being Valentine's Day, my very pregnant wife is here. I did get her a flower. It did get stepped on, but not by me. I don't know if that makes it more or Yeah, no one appreciates how much work I put into being 8 months pregnant. We're 37 weeks pregnant, so if someone starts screaming during this talk, what was it? 38 weeks today. So if someone starts screaming during this talk, either I'm finally a dad, or we have a medical emergency. I guess it could be both, right? Yeah. So,
Tim, you're already a dad.
Ah, shucks. Thank you, I'm a girl dad.
That's right.
So,
Is that one a girl?
what was that?
Is that baby a girl?
Yeah, baby is a girl. Yeah, this is our first, number one. Her name is mostly certain. We're probably going to call her Maisie. Her name would be Margaret Claire. So unless she's got a face that says otherwise, she'll be Margaret Claire. I had this experience all the time growing up of just having a really hard time sitting still. And I thought as I got older, it would get easier to sit still. And in some sense it has. In other senses, it certainly has not. You could ask my youth, Greg, do I have a chair in my office by my desk? No. What do I have there?
Treadmill.
I have a treadmill. So what you see when you go to my office is my standing desk and me on the treadmill, like walking and doing emails all the time. And yeah, I can sell 100 widgets or whatever. That'll be 5,000 more, please. And I'll be in Skype meetings or doing emails, and I'm constantly moving. And you could say it's undiagnosed ADHD, and you could be right. But I think it's also representative of the fact that I just have a really hard time being satisfied with things as they are, and I constantly want more, right? It's like, why would I sit down and do emails when I could be walking and doing emails? And this is across my whole life, like this image, I think persists. I feel like I'm always one thing away from being happy, right? So I think to myself, okay, if I just had a little bit more money, maybe I'd be happy. Or once I get my car fixed, I'll be happy. Or, in other cases, like once I move out of the house, I'll be happy. Once I graduate from high school, I'll be happy. Once I go to a good college, or I get a good job, or I get a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or I get married, or I'm having a girl, then I'll finally be happy. And it's like I'm always one thing away from being happy. And I get that thing, and I feel happy, and then what happens? Anyone?
You get tired of it.
You get tired of it, yeah. And for the longest time, that was really discouraging, because I would work hard to get something, or it would be given to me as a gift, which is even better, and I get that thing, and I feel great for a little while. Maybe it's a couple hours, maybe it's a couple days, a couple weeks, a couple months if you're lucky. But then eventually, you go back to, oh man, I want something else now. I want more. And it was like no matter how much I got, it was never enough, and I always wanted more. Can you guys relate to that? Can anyone give an example? What is something you got that felt really good when you got it? Anyone? Something you got that felt really good? Anyone? Yeah.
I like jerseys.
Oh, you like jerseys? Okay.
That's something you always want more of. So
Yeah.
that's a good example.
Yeah. What's your best jersey?
It's a soccer team.
I'm an American man. I don't know soccer. Which soccer team though?
Liverpool.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's cool. Anyone else, like, God has something you really wanted and it felt great when you first got it? Maybe. Yeah?
I feel like in the weightlifting or in sports, you either get something, you get an accomplishment, and
Yeah.
you can always take one step further, and you're never satisfied with the progress.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, right? Like you win something in sports or training or athletics and you want something else to think about, like, okay, what about next year's Super Bowl? What about next year's tournament? Anyone else got something? Yeah.
Well, for me, it was DCYC, but hopefully I don't lose the word, his God, right?
Heck yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Video games.
Oh yeah? What's your favorite?
Oh goodness. I'm a big fan of The Legend of Zelda, but that never really dies out for me. But like story games that are like It Takes Two on the PS4.
Mm-hmm.
You play through that, but once you've played through it, then it's like you're kind of done. 'Cause
Yeah.
you know the story, you know
Yeah,
how to do
sure.
it. So
Yeah.
like, all the puzzles aren't really puzzles anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Yeah, so, right, we get these things and they feel great and that's awesome, right? I'm not here to tell you don't enjoy your things. But after like a couple of weeks or a couple of months or even a couple of years go by, do those things still make you as happy as when you first got them? No? Does anyone feel like they enjoy the thing they got as much today as when they first got it? Yeah, what?
Oh, I got a VR headset.
Oh, that's pretty sick.
And I've never gotten bored of that.
Oh, okay, I mean, this guy's the exception. Did you want to get the top?
Go ahead, Ryan.
So I think we all have this universal experience of we really want something, we get it, we want more. And I know for me, I've been really tough on myself in the past because it's easy to think, what is wrong with me? Like, am I greedy? Am I being selfish? Am I gluttonous? Like, why can't I be satisfied with what I have? Like, why is enough never enough for me? And there's this term in science, the only scientific term we'll use today, so don't fret. It's called hedonic adaptation. And the way it works is that it says that you have a baseline level of happiness. And when you get something new or something good happens to you, your baseline jumps. And then over time, it slowly drops back down to the baseline. So let's say your level of happiness at base is a 5 out of 10. And then something good happens, like you get a boyfriend or girlfriend, you get a new phone, you get your license, whatever it is, your happiness jumps to an 8, and that's awesome. 8's pretty dang high. Over time, even though you haven't lost that license, that boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever it is, that 8's gonna slowly drop back down to a 5. And then once you're back down to that 5, what do you want to do?
Get back up to the 8 again.
Yeah, right? You want to get back up to 8 again. And so you try something else, right? Maybe think, okay, what's the next accomplishment? What's the next item or what's the next thing that I need to get back to that 8? But it's like it's like running on a treadmill or walking on your treadmill desk. You can walk on your desk, I can walk on my desk for hours. I don't go anywhere. I am walking in place. And for a lot of us, that's what this is like, because you're at a level 5 of happiness, you get something, you jump to an 8, and then it slowly becomes a 5, and then you try to get something else, go back to an 8, and then it goes back down to a 5, and you keep trying to get things, and it's like you're on a hamster wheel, like you're running on a treadmill, where it feels like you're walking and you're getting somewhere, but you're not really going anywhere. And I used to be really hard on myself thinking that like these things are bad. But actually God made us this way for a very specific reason. None of you are broken for wanting more out of life. None of you are wrong for wanting those things. Like, guys, all of us feel that way. All people across all time have felt this way, like they want more from life and they're not sure how to make peace with that. And it's a good thing that God created us with so that we would seek him out. C.S. Lewis has this really good quote. He says, "If I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world. If I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy. So what he's talking about there is our desire for more. There are a lot of different analogies you could use. Some people really like the idea of there's a bottomless pit in your chest that goes on forever, so no matter what you put in there, it's never enough and it's never full. Some people like the idea of there's a God-shaped hole in your heart that nothing besides God can fill. Some people call it like a desire for eternity. Regardless of what it is, nothing on this world can satisfy it. And so the quote goes on, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world. So everyone experiences this desire for eternity. And just like all of our other desires, it exists because it's meant to help us chase something and to be satisfied. Can anyone tell me why we get hungry? Like what's the point of being hungry? Anyone? Yeah.
We need something to nourish our bodies.
Yeah.
Otherwise we'll die.
Yeah, that's a great one. You need something to nourish your body. So you get hungry, so you seek food, so you eat it, and you'll be satisfied. Why do we get thirsty? Anyone? Yeah, exactly. We get thirsty so that we'll drink water and we'll be hydrated. Same thing with sleep. You get tired so that you'll sleep, you'll be rested, and you'll be satisfied. And so our desire for eternity, the bottomless hole in our hearts, is the same way. It's this natural desire we all experience. And the reason God gives it to us is that we will seek eternity, and all of our desires exist so that they can be satisfied. We can trust that Jesus will satisfy our desires if we seek the right thing. And what is the only type of thing that can fill a bottomless or an eternal hole in our chest? Anyone? Yeah.
An eternal God.
Yeah, an eternal God, right? God is the only being, he's being itself, if you're being technical, that is eternal, that is never ending. And so we have this never ending eternal hole in our hearts, this desire. The only thing that can fill that is God. You can try to put other things in there, but they're never going to fill that hole because they're not supposed to. And you guys have probably heard this before. St. Augustine says, our hearts are restless until they rest in you. Right? And another way of saying that is, our hearts are always going to desire until they are satisfied in you, and you is God. And so we're going to keep going. We're never going to feel satisfied or at rest or at peace until we allow ourselves to be at peace and to be satisfied with God. And that was certainly my experience. And I shared with you guys earlier funny examples of me wanting more in life. But growing up especially, I wanted so much, and I didn't really feel like I was getting it. When I was growing up, I had a pretty serious lisp, so I didn't pronounce words well. And so people made fun of me for it. People called me stupid. I felt stupid. I felt immature. I felt like I didn't know how to talk. And on top of that, I grew up very overweight, and so I felt ugly. Like I didn't feel masculine. I didn't really feel desirable. I felt just bad about myself. And on top of all of that, I had a lot of social anxiety. I was afraid to talk to people. I was afraid to make friends. I was afraid to be vulnerable. I was afraid to put myself out there. And so I really wanted to get over these things. And I thought, if I can just get over these things, I will finally be happy. So I started working really hard. I started trying to overcome my speech impediment. I started practicing how to speak properly, and then eventually it improved. People stopped making fun of me for the way I talked. People started taking me more seriously. But was it enough? No. So then I thought, okay, well, I'll lose weight. Like, that'll help. And so I lost weight. I got in shape. I got a haircut. I finally felt like attractive. People started complimenting me for it. I felt good about myself and masculine and strong. But was it enough? No. I'm like, okay, well, it must be my social anxiety. So I started taking a public speaking class. I started learning how to talk to people and how to put myself out there and how to start conversations and how to be around people. And I made really good friends, and I was popular, and I enjoyed it. But it still wasn't enough. And so I'd finally gotten all these things that I wanted, and it wasn't that those things are bad things. And it wasn't even that those things didn't feel good when they first happened, but they weren't enough for me. And I think we're all kind of sold this lie with the American dream. And and I believe in the American dream, right? The idea that if you work hard enough, you can have, within reason, anything you want, as long as you work hard enough. I believe that. I think that's a good thing for the most part. But what I think it leaves out is the fact that, yeah, if you work hard enough, you can have anything, but it's not going to make you happy. Sure, if you work hard enough, you can go to college, or you can get this job, or get married, or have a house. If you work hard enough, you can have these things. But the problem is those things aren't going to make you totally satisfied. And so it's this half-truth that we're sold, that, yeah, you can have whatever you want, but those things aren't going to make you satisfied. But we all buy into this lie that they will. And it was really tough for me, because I think when I realized that I still wasn't happy, even after getting all these things I wanted, I started to kind of feel hopeless. I started to give up. And it's easy to start to think, what's the point of hoping for more out of life? What's the point of desiring eternity or satisfaction or fulfillment or peace if every time you try to get it, you're disappointed? Every single time I try to get this thing, it feels good, and then it's not enough and I want more. And so I was tempted to start thinking, I'll just give up. Like, I'm tired of being disappointed. What's the point of hoping for something if I'm just going to be disappointed? Like, maybe I should just stop hoping at all, and then I'll be happy, because I won't expect more from life and it won't disappoint me again. But what really changed my mindset was, like we talked about in the beginning, realizing that this desire for eternity is good. There's this God-shaped hole. And actually, this God-shaped hole in our hearts, this desire for eternity, this desire for more of everything, it's the theological virtue of hope. So some of you are going to hear that and you're going to be like, nah, Kat, that's not right. Because hope, the people who are hopeful in my life, they're happy, they're optimistic, they're peaceful, but the hole I feel in my chest makes me feel bad, it makes me feel anxious, it makes me run around and feel frantic. It doesn't make me feel those things. But the definition of hope is the soul's thirst for God. Because remember, this hole in our heart can only be satisfied by God. Just like the desire for hunger leads us to food, just like the desire for thirst leads us to water, the desire for sleep leads us to sleep, the desire for eternity leads us to eternity, to God. It leads us to heaven. And heaven is simply an eternal, perfect relationship with God. And so this thing in our chest, it's hope. And when we realize it's hope, and when we realize we have this hole and this desire in our heart, we recognize we want more, I think we have 3 different ways of responding. So there's the first 2 ways are the wrong ways to respond. And we all do them sometimes, and that's okay. We want to try to spend as much time as we can with the 3rd way, which is the right way. But the first 2 ways, the first way is called the fool's way. And what the fool's way does is he says, okay, the desire in my heart for eternity, the hope I feel is good. And so far the fool's right? He's right so far. But here's where the fool gets it wrong. He says, the problem is I need to put more things in this hole to be satisfied. The things I'm putting in there aren't good enough, so I need to put more things in this hole, right? So I think we all experience this. You try, like we talked about in the beginning, you get some money, but it's not enough, and you want more, so you put more money in there. You got a boyfriend or girlfriend, and they make you happy for a little while, and then you're disappointed, so you want someone who's prettier or who's nicer to you, so you replace them with someone else, right? You want a better job, you want better classes, you want better clothes, you want whatever it is. You keep wanting these things, and you just keep trying to replace them with something better. And you think, well, maybe this next thing will finally satisfy me. And it doesn't work, because you can never get enough of what you don't really need. What you don't really need is to fill your God-shaped hole with things other than God. So no matter how many things you put in there, they're never going to fill it. It's the equivalent of being thirsty and trying to eat food, or being hungry in trying to drink water. It doesn't work because those desires are for something other than what you're putting in there. So no matter how much of those things you put in there, it's never enough. And we see this all the time with celebrities, don't we? Like celebrities have all this fame, money, power, success, but they're miserable. And they're always getting more, they're always getting new houses or new cars or new, boyfriends or girlfriends. And they're leading miserable lives because they keep trying to fill this bottomless hole with things that can't fill it. And the problem isn't that things are bad. Like, we're meant to enjoy the things on this earth. Like, God gave us these things to be enjoyed. But he gives us to enjoy them in moderation, right? In the proper context. And they cannot take God's place in our hearts. That brings us to the second way, which is wrong. And this way is the cynic, or the old man. And the old man starts off by saying, I know that nothing in this world can satisfy the hope in my heart. And so far he's right. But where he's wrong is he says, therefore, I'm going to stop hoping to be satisfied. I'm going to give up on hope. I'm going to stop wanting more out of life and pretend that things are good enough as they are, that I don't want more, I wasn't made for more. And often we can experience the cynic or the old man when we've been through a difficult situation. Maybe you tried to satisfy yourself with worldly things and it hasn't worked out. And so you get up and say, what's the point? These things didn't satisfy me before. Nothing's going to satisfy me, so I give up. Other times we can start to feel that way if we've been through a difficult situation, maybe a breakup, maybe you failed a test or a game that you worked really hard for, or something just didn't work out. You start to think, what's the point of hoping? Because I'm just going to be disappointed again. And so you suppress the hope in your heart. You pretend you don't want more from life. You pretend things aren't fine just the way they are. But guys, that's literally a hopeless way to live. Because you were made for more. You were made to hope for more and to receive more, and there's nothing wrong with wanting that. And so finally, that brings us to the last way, what we'll call the Catholic way. And the Catholic way combines the two truths of the other ways into a third truth. So just like the fool, it says, I know that the things in this world, I know that the hope in my heart for eternity is good. And like the cynic says, I also know that nothing in this world will satisfy me and that I will always want more. And it combines them together, and then it says, therefore, I know that what I truly desire is beyond this world, that I will be satisfied, that what I hope for, this eternity that I desire, is good, and I'll get it someday with God in heaven. And that brings us back to the quote from the beginning. If I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world. So we want to spend as much time as we can in the Catholic way as possible, accepting the two truths and combining them together. We're all going to sometimes fall into the other two ways, the fool or the cynic. But we want to spend as much time as we can getting back to the true way, the Catholic way. And the way we pursue that is through our personal relationship with Jesus. It's through our prayer lives. Because remember, we will only be perfectly satisfied in heaven. The desire of the hope in our hearts is heaven. Heaven is not a place, it means being in perfect relationship with Jesus. So that can only happen after we die. But the way we get there is by being in relationship with him here on earth. And I think for a lot of us, prayer can be intimidating. We can be worried that we don't know how to do it, we don't know how to start, we don't know how to sustain it, we don't even know what it is. And that's okay. Prayer is intimidating for a lot of people. I don't know anyone who's not intimidated by prayer, at least when they start off. But we take small steps and we find ourselves along the way. Can anyone give me some examples of what are some ways that we can pray as Catholics? Anyone? Yes?
Serving others.
Serving others is a great way, yeah. Anyone else?
Journaling.
Journaling is a great way to pray. Yeah. Any other ways we could pray? Yes.
Anytime we get mad.
What was that?
Anytime we get mad. Or like.
Oh yeah. Anytime you, yeah, sure. Yeah, like when you're tempted to sin. Yeah, you get mad. Yeah, those are great ones. Yeah.
Rosary?
Rosary is a great one. Yes.
Praise and worship.
Praise and worship is a great one. Yeah.
Eucharist.
Eucharist is a pinnacle. That's it.
Adoration.
Adoration is a great one. Yeah. So there are all these different ways to pray. And what's so beautiful is that, just like VeggieTale says, God made you special and he loves you very much. And part of being special means that you have a unique relationship with God that no one else in the entire universe will ever have, has ever had, or has right now. And so what's beautiful about the faith is there are all these different ways to pray. And just like going on an adventure, you get to explore the different ways to pray to find out the best way to pray for your personal relationship with Jesus. Because some of you might love praise and worship or charismatic, more expressive prayer, and others might prefer more contemplative, meditative prayer. Some of you might love the rosary, some of you might love Mass. Some of you might love praying with others, some of you might love praying more solitary. All those things, as long as they're in line with the church teaching, are beautiful, good ways to pray. And God wants you to discover the best way for you to pray based on the way he made you, your personal relationship with him. And God is always calling us to take the next step. And just like how each of us prays a little bit differently, the next right step for you looks different for everyone. So if currently you don't really pray much, then maybe what God's asking you to do is simply when you go to bed at night, say, Jesus, I love you. Here are 2 good things that happened to me today. That's awesome. If you're already doing that, maybe what Christ is calling you to do is to, when you wake up in the morning, say, good morning, Jesus. Please help me have a good day. If you're doing those things, maybe he wants you to go to confession once a month. If you're doing that already, maybe he wants you to go to adoration for 30 minutes once a week. Jesus just asked us to take the next step from where we're currently at. And so you don't look at someone else and say, oh man, look how much this guy's praying. I got to catch up with him. It's not a competition. You have to take the next right step for you. So it's not a game of comparison, simply a game of what does that next step look like for me? And what really changed my perspective on prayer is realizing that it is not a one-way street. What I mean by that is that our prayer lives are not simply us desiring God to fill the God-shaped hole in our hearts, and God is indifferent to us, or God kind of likes us like we're pets. What's so beautiful is that we thirst for God, right? We have hope, but God also thirsts for us. When Jesus is born, he becomes man, he dies, he suffers, he dies for us to save us and redeem us. But when he's being tortured, when he's on the cross being crucified, one of the centurions, one of the soldiers, with a spear, he stabs a sponge, he dips it in some wine, he puts it up to Christ's mouth. Does anyone remember what Jesus says that makes him do that? Anyone remember? Yeah.
I thirst.
Yeah, exactly. Jesus says, I thirst. In the Missionaries of Charity, who are Mother Teresa, St. Teresa of Calcutta's order, in every one of their chapels all over the world, they have the words written, I thirst. Because Jesus was not physically parched. I mean, he probably was. But he wasn't talking about that. He was talking about you. He was talking about each and every one of you. He was saying, I desire them. I want to be in a relationship with you. I want to be with you. Even as he was being tortured and killed, he was looking at the people torturing and killing him and saying, I thirst for them. And so prayer isn't just our thirst for God. Prayer is where our thirst for God and God's thirst for us meet. And what's crazy is God made us to thirst for him. We need God. God doesn't need us. God is already perfect. He's already all good, all knowing, and all powerful. But again and again, God chooses to humble himself to bring himself lower for our sake. And so Jesus chooses to put his own hole in his heart that each one of you is meant to fill. Right? When Christ is on the cross, he's stabbed, right? And it's like his heart is pierced, and only you can fill that hole. St. Paul says, we complete what is lacking in the suffering of Jesus. And what he's talking about there is our participation. Jesus allows us in some crazy, like paradoxical way to fill him in a way that he's allowed himself to be open and to be vulnerable. And so he chooses to need us. We just need him because we're made that way. And so these two things come together in a really beautiful and powerful way. And tonight especially, I think we want to invite you guys into that. Tonight we're going to have a time of adoration, just like we had last night. And I know we've all been over this already, so I'm sorry if I'm beating a dead horse here. But adoration is when the priest takes the golden trophy-looking thing, the monstrance, he puts it on the altar, and inside the monstrance is the flat, white piece of bread. It's what we call the Eucharist, the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus. It doesn't just represent Jesus, or it's not symbolically Jesus. It is literally Jesus. And I know that's hard to believe, but that's why we need faith. We can trust that it's true because Christ told us it's true, but getting our minds to believe that or understand that is where faith helps us along the way. And when you're looking at Christ in this piece of bread, I want you to offer him your hopes, your dreams, your fears, your failures, your successes, this desire you have in your heart for Jesus, the hope that you have, because he's meant to satisfy it. I want you to look at the Eucharist and know that, oh my gosh, that's what I desire. Everything I've chased in my life, everything I've ever wanted, everything I've ever pursued or achieved is right there in that Eucharist. That's everything. That's what I want. And I want you to know prayer is hard. Prayer is always going to be hard. We might have moments where it's easier, but for most of us, it's going to be hard a lot of the time. And so some of you might have emotional experiences when you're praying, and it might feel really good. And thank God, that's a blessing and that's awesome. But for many of us, most of the time, prayer doesn't really feel like anything. It kind of feels bland. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong, right? You're not a failure just because you don't feel anything in prayer. You can pray the right way, whatever that means for you personally, and still feel nothing. But it's simply that we live in an imperfect world, and emotions are fickle, right? They come and go. Like, we can't control them. But spending time with God, it's like receiving an appetizer before the main dish comes out. The main dish is heaven, right? So we're not going to be satisfied until we get there. But in prayer, we can get these small foretastes, these small appetizers of what heaven will be like. And so that's why people who are hopeful are people who are peaceful, who are optimistic, who are joyful, because they've spent time with God. They know that God will satisfy them. They've tasted just how good God is. And what's so crazy about this, they have more hope than we do, which means that the more time you spend with God, the more hopeful you become, the greater the ache in your heart will be for heaven, because you start to know just how good God is, and so you want to be with him that much more. But you're also more at peace because you know you will be in heaven with him, that you will be satisfied, and that you'll get what you've been seeking all this time. And so I encourage you, seek God. If you haven't been to confession yet, go to confession either this week or when you get home, because it will make prayer and especially adoration tonight easier. This morning during the main session, one of the speakers mentioned John 10:10, which is the thief comes only to kill, to steal, and to destroy. But I came that you might have life and have it in abundance, or some translations say have it to the fullest. Jesus promises that he will give you an abundant life, that he will fulfill you, and that he will satisfy you, just as you fulfill and satisfy him. And the way we do that is by seeking him here on earth, so we get to spend eternity with him in heaven. Thank you.